Got a question here. I'm juggling a full-time job and part-time studies aiming to increase my LSAT score, which currently stands at 155. My challenge is the limited study time. I can only spare 1 hour a day for LSAT prep. Given these constraints, what are the most effective and efficient strategies I can employ to maximize my study time and see a tangible improvement in my score? Are there specific types of practice questions or drills that would be most beneficial in such a limited time frame? Don't worry, 1 hour a day is totally fine. Of course, it all depends on when you're taking the LSAT. If you have fewer hours per day or per week, I would recommend having a longer study time frame in terms of weeks and months, but that's okay. You'll take the LSAT just the same in the end. And given that you've got a full-time job and part-time studies, of course, it's only natural that you'd have less time available to devote to studying for the LSAT. I'm also curious to know what your goal score is. You didn't mention that. You're at 155 now. I'm going to guess that you're wanting to score at least in the 160s or maybe 165 plus. Well worth shooting for, of course. 1 hour a day is totally fine, bottom line. So how do you spend that time to see a tangible improvement in that limited time? I want to make sure that, of course, we're always keeping the momentum going. So we're taking, for example, one game, one passage, and say 5 logical reasoning questions. Does that seem reasonable? A game, a passage, and 5 logical reasoning questions every single day. Under timed conditions, you would have approximately, on average, about 8:45 or 8 minutes and 45 seconds. We'll round that to 9 minutes for a game, 9 minutes for a passage, and 5 LR questions, which could work out to, say, roughly 8 minutes. That sound fair? So that's already 9 plus 9 plus 8. That's 26 minutes plus review. Give yourself another buffer just for a difficult game or a difficult passage. That ends up being, say, 30 to 35 minutes of time to work, and then 25 minutes of review. That may not be sufficient time, but this is just a ballpark approximation here to give you an idea of what could you do in just an hour a day. One game, one passage, 5 LR questions, plus review. And then, of course, if you want to do 2 passages and 0 games, or 2 games and 0 passages, that's also totally fine. It all depends on what are your weak areas, what do you want to work on. If you wanted to do 3 games and reviewing them with nothing else, that'd also be fine. It all depends on what are your weak areas, what do you want to drill, and where do you want to improve. If you want to rotate, that's fine. People always say, should I do a day of just games or just reasoning or just reading comp, or should I mix it up? The truth is, it doesn't really matter. Some elements of any study program are going to be arbitrary. The point is that we maintain that forward progress. The consistency is especially important given that you have so many other things going on. Again, you mentioned full-time job, and you're in school part-time, and you're adding in LSAT prep on top of that. So 1 hour a day of LSAT is more than enough. I don't want you to burn out by loading yourself up with too many obligations at once. It might actually make more sense to not work on the LSAT for now, focus on your full-time job and part-time schoolwork, and then when you're done with part-time studies, if you are done with them in the near future, you could then devote that time to the LSAT instead. So maybe over the summer, you're not going to be taking classes and you could focus instead solely on full-time job plus LSAT. Or maybe you want to say, I'm not going to study for the LSAT during the week. I'm going to do maybe 1 single LR question a day for just a couple of minutes, Monday to Friday, and then devote more time to the LSAT on the weekend. I do recommend doing something most days, if not every single day, for LSAT prep, just to maintain that forward progress and not let it constantly be the thing that falls to the back burner. But if you can do more, great. But at minimum, just a question a day to keep that forward progress. You mentioned specific practice questions and specific drills. Again, it's arbitrary. If you want to do 10 LR questions of a given type, say 10 necessary assumption questions as a drill, that could be a great thing to do. If you want to do just a single section of logic games, that could be perfectly fine to do. You could make it that you do a logic game with your coffee in the morning, or you do a reading count passage on the subway during your commute, wherever you can squeeze it in. And if you can't do a practice question or drill, if it just ends up being watching one of my videos or listening to one of my podcasts or watching what I post on Instagram or TikTok, that's better than nothing as well. Surround yourself with as much LSAT and law school admissions material as possible. to keep your head in this world, given that you've got so much else outside of LSAT and admissions going on between your full-time job and the classes that you're taking. But I want to make sure that you at least keep the LSAT in your world, because test day will be here before you know it, and you want to make sure that you're constantly making forward progress every single day towards that goal. And if you're looking for my help, there are a lot of different ways that I could support you at LSAT Unplugged. We have live online classes via Zoom. We also have on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. You can check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.